Logan is directed by James Mangold and stars Hugh Jackman in his final performance as Wolverine, or so he says. So this is another installment in the X-Men film franchise, except don't go into this thinking it's going to be a typical X-Men film, because, oh, no it ain't. This movie is set in 2029 in a really bleak, depressing sort of a future where Wolverine and Charles Xavier have been living kind of in hiding after an incident that is hinted at, which has left them really emotionally scarred. These are broken characters now. They've been through hell and it is showing on their faces. Aside from going through an emotional hell and trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces of their lives, they're also entrusted with the care of a girl named Laura, someone who has a bit of a mysterious past and, well, I can't really say too much about her. If you're a comic book fan, if you've seen the trailers, you kind of know who this kid is. They're given the task of taking this girl to a place called Eden, and in the meantime there's an organization of pretty bad people who are after her to try and put an end to her. So the look of this movie from the trailers really appealed to me. Back when I used to be a pretty avid comic book reader, sometimes they had these series called Elseworlds, which would take place within, like, say, the Batman universe, but they were stories set in a different timeline, or, you know, that kind of thing. And this movie kind of reminded me of that sort of stuff. We've got an X-Men movie without the X-Men in it, and it all looked really interesting. Aside from that, it was directed by James Mangold, who I'm a really big fan of. I mean, this guy has done things like Girl Interrupted, Kate and Leopold, which also had Hugh Jackman, and I thought was a very underrated, funny movie. He also did Identity, Walk the Line, and the exceptional remake of 3:10 to Yuma. So, you know, I was going into this thinking to myself, this could be good, and oh my god, it was fan-freaking-tastic. For starters, this movie just had such an incredible balance of action and emotion. This movie had a lot of heart to it, and by the end, like, man, I was feeling the feels in my feely bits. I really was. The performances across the board were absolutely the best I have seen any of these actors do in the X-Men films. Hugh Jackman, I mean, the guy's been playing this character for 17 years now, and this, you know, if it really is his final outing as the character, wow. Oh man, he just brought so much to the bitterness and resentment, and, you know, his aggression, everything about him was just absolutely so believable. We get a very different version of Charles Xavier in this as well. The guy, well, let's just say he's not going through the best time of his life, and Logan is kind of in a role as a caretaker for him. And aside from that, Stephen Merchant was also a character in the film, and oh man, he looked brilliant and acted brilliantly. But look, aside from all that, Daphne friggin' Keane, the little girl in this movie as Laura, oh man, she was absolutely extraordinary. I'm not going to say too much about it because the trailers don't give you everything. That was one good thing I liked about it. This movie had a lot of surprises, and she was one of the best child actresses I've ever seen. At times she sort of had the air of this sweet little girl. At times she was just a vicious, I was going to say pit bull, but I don't think a pit bull would ever be this savage. But there were also times where she kind of came across as like having a 30-year-old soul. You know, she was such a good actress, and after doing some research, I found out this was her first feature film. She's only ever been in one TV series, and oh man, I cannot wait to see where her career goes. Aside from that, just everything was near perfect. The directing, the editing, the special effects were amazing. Everything looked really believable, including a lot of the wire work in the fight scenes and the stunts and stuff. Everything looked perfectly believable. I also really dug the score to this film. Aside from being emotional in all the right places, it just fitted the tone of the film, and that was the thing, the tone in this movie. In this, it wasn't like an apocalyptic sort of future. I mean, everything was really dusty and stuff, but man, it just added so much to the emotion. And that was the thing, you know, this movie packed so much emotion in the story. And like I said, there were a lot of surprises. Go into this movie knowing as little as you can about it, because there were some characters that popped up that I had no idea were going to be in it, and not characters that we've seen before, but, well, actually, in a way, we have. One thing I do need to point out, this movie is brutally violent. I mean, we're talking claws going through skulls, we're talking limbs being severed, we're talking blood everywhere. This movie is rated MA for a reason, so please, if you do take kids to see it, make sure they can handle this kind of stuff, because it is without a doubt the most brutally violent comic-related movie I've ever seen. But that was a good thing, because at this point in Wolverine's story, I mean, like I said, he's seen it all. He's been there. He's seen some bad stuff. And to see his character really unleashed properly was just so fitting for the story. But the thing with the film I found, just on occasion, the plot did just slow down a little bit, but things picked up again, and often with like a really cool plot point or a surprise, or, you know, something really powerful happening. So in moments where it did start to just wind down a little bit, it usually picked right back up again. So I commended it for that. I did think maybe the runtime of the movie being just over 2 hours, I think about 2.25 hours, probably was a little bit long. I think they could have trimmed it down a bit. But other than that, this was just, you know, it was a comic book movie without being a typical comic book movie. This is like nothing we've seen before. It's not an action spectacle. It was a really character-driven story. And look, I just love the film. I cannot wait to see it again. I will definitely be adding it to the Blu-ray collection. And I'm going to give Logan a 9.5 out of 10. So look, if you're an X-Men fan, make sure you go see this movie. Do not hesitate. Go and see it right now, unless you're watching this at like 2 in the morning or something, in which case wait for, well, just whenever you can go see it. And if you've seen Logan, make sure you let me know what you thought of it, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Did you love it as much as I did? I really hope you did. I mean, let's face it, it's not difficult. So drop me some comments either here or on Facebook. All my social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies, and I would love to talk about movies with you. I'll catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.